Insecurity was not wired into your DNA. It was programmed into your behavior. At this very moment, individuals with less talent, weaker discipline, and inferior intellect are advancing past you. Their words land with impact. Rooms shift when they arrive. While you deliberate, they execute. The difference is not genetic superiority. The difference is they abandon the wait for external permission. Consider this reality. Someone with half your ability and a fraction of your knowledge is claiming victories that should belong to you. What separates you from them? They understood that certainty is not a prerequisite. It is a performance. A decision you make regardless of internal fear. Society conditioned you to apologize before speaking, to justify before acting, to queue patiently while strangers architect your destiny. But here is the knowledge they concealed. The universe does not distribute rewards based on waiting. It compensates those who command space. It elevates those who operate with autonomy. It crowns those who seize without seeking consensus. This is not inspirational content. This is not designed to comfort. What follows are 8 calculated principles that dismantle hesitation, execute approval addiction, and reconstruct authority from the foundation upward. Most never grasp the core mechanism. Certainty is not an internal sensation. It is an external force field others detect in your proximity. When your entrance silences ongoing dialogue, that is authority. When your voice causes hands to abandon devices, that is dominance. When your refusal requires zero justification and receives zero resistance, that is power. The battle is not about convincing yourself of bravery. The battle is making others experience your gravitational pull. If observing inferior operators claim what belongs to you has become unbearable, if compressing your potential to accommodate mediocrity has exhausted you, if the transition from requesting to commanding is overdue, then what comes next will either ignite awakening or trigger discomfort. Regardless, absorption is necessary. First principle: silent presence outweighs verbal volume. Excessive speech is a diagnostic tool. It diagnoses internal fragility. It exposes uncertainty. It broadcasts dependency on listener validation. Those who fill every silence with sound are constructing evidence of their own insecurity. They attempt persuasion. They scramble to prove worth. They cannot tolerate the weight of quiet moments, because stillness exposes their lack of substance. Contrast this with those who weaponize pause. They allow silence to expand and occupy territory. Recall your last encounter with genuine authority. Did that individual frantically patch conversational gaps? Did they stumble through explanations? They spoke with surgical precision. When their voice stopped, you remained engaged. That is not coincidence. That is weaponized communication. Silence manufactures value. Scarcity elevates worth. When your contributions are rationed, each one carries currency. When you saturate the environment with justifications and nervous chatter, your words transform into background static. True command is not volume. It is calculated calm that makes others uncomfortable. The individual who endures tense quiet without fracturing wins the frame. The individual who refuses defensive posturing when questioned wins the exchange. The individual who articulates once and never repeats wins the hierarchy. Implementation of this principle produces observable shifts. People begin leaning forward. Observation intensifies. Respect flows without demands because they detect something unfamiliar. They detect control. Control generates magnetic force. Reduce your word count by half in the next interaction. State what matters, then terminate. No qualifiers, no softening laughter. No unprompted elaboration. Observe the transformation in body language. Observe how questions flow toward you instead of over you. That recalibration is your presence eclipsing your speech. Machiavelli articulated the duality required for survival. The fox recognizes traps. The lion intimidates wolves. Master the fox's silence. Deploy the lion's roar. But never permit fear to select your mode. Second principle, delay all reactions. Emotions function as data, not directives. Internalize this truth because it will prevent more catastrophic errors than any other wisdom in this framework. Most individuals treat emotional impulses as mandatory responses. Provocation triggers anger, so they detonate. Threat triggers fear, so they withdraw. Opportunity triggers excitement, so they leap blindly. This reflex loop is precisely why they remain trapped in cycles of powerlessness. Immediate reaction is weakness on display. Each unfiltered response hands your nervous system's remote control to external actors. They input commands, you execute outputs. They provoke, you defend. They bait, you explode. Predictability makes you a simple machine. Simple machines are effortlessly manipulated. Strategic restraint, however, disarms manipulation. When anticipated explosions are met with stillness, scripts malfunction. When expected justifications encounter silence, confidence erodes. Composure destabilizes those who depend on your emotional volatility. Visualize this dynamic. While everyone around you spins into chaos, you remain the fixed point. That contrast establishes you as the room's gravitational center. This does not require emotional suppression. This requires emotional deferral. Register the anger, then postpone its expression. Acknowledge the fear, then regulate breathing. Recognize the reactive urge, then insert pause. That interval is where agency lives. In that space, you determine value. You assess whether this moment warrants energy expenditure. You evaluate whether this person has earned your response. You calculate which move serves your position. True authority emerges when your expression contradicts surrounding turbulence. Picture a confrontation where the opponent exhibits red-faced fury, aggressive gestures, elevated volume. Meanwhile, your features remain neutral. Your tone stays level. You are not dismissing them. You are refusing to enter their emotional frequency. Who appears stronger? Who controls the dynamic? First reactor loses. Patient observer who responds on deliberate terms commands the space. Next time someone attempts to trigger you, whether through disrespect, testing, or manufactured chaos, provide nothing. Let them exhaust their performance. Stand immovable. Respect follows restraint more reliably than any verbal counterattack. Third principle, withhold explanation from those who have not earned access. This teaching will terminate certain relationships while protecting you from toxic ones. Those who genuinely respect you do not require justification. Those who fundamentally disrespect you will reject any explanation offered. Process that reality. Explanation is not universally owed. In fact, most people have not qualified for your internal rationale. Each attempt to justify yourself to someone who has already condemned you is not communication. It is supplication. Justification often camouflages begging. Reflect on how frequently you have attempted to make someone comprehend your choices. You constructed logical arguments. You provided context. You worked to shift their perspective. Outcome? They maintained disagreement. They sustained interrogation. They perpetuated the demand for defense. Their confusion was never authentic. They were invested in misunderstanding you. Certain people do not seek clarity. They seek control. They require you to remain in explanation mode so they can maintain interrogation mode. While you explain, You occupy the defendant's chair. While you occupy that chair, they hold authority. Stop training people to interrogate you. Execute decisions. Establish boundaries. No dissertation required. No apologetic cushioning needed. No defensive preparation for those who never intended respect. Confident operators state positions singularly, then advance. If inquiry follows, they may offer brief response, but they do not perform. They do not audition for acceptance because self-approval has already been granted. That shift is critical. External validation ceases to be the objective. Internal authority becomes the operating system. Others' perspectives on your choices become irrelevant data. Machiavelli understood perception management. Everyone observes your exterior. Few penetrate to your interior reality. Let them witness your decisions. Let them speculate on your reasoning. But never distribute the instruction manual to your consciousness. Retain mystery. Reduced explanation increases perceived depth. Reduced justification elevates assumed knowledge. They are correct to assume. You possess understanding they lack. You understand your existence is not subject to popular vote. You understand respect is not purchased through explanation. You understand confidence originates from choice ownership, not permission acquisition. Next time someone demands explanation, and you sense they have not earned that access, deliver a simple declaration. State your decision. Allow them to process it. Their discomfort is not your responsibility to manage. Fourth principle. Restrict entry to your internal landscape. Your strategies are not public information. Your vulnerabilities are not entertainment content. Your next moves are not committee decisions. Most individuals hemorrhage power unknowingly. They announce objectives before initiation. They declare plans before commitment. They broadcast fears, projects, and intentions, then wonder why nothing retains sacred status anymore. Reality check. The less visibility into your process, the more impact from your results. Arriving with completed outcomes instead of empty promises projects unstoppable momentum. Sharing polished products instead of rough concepts projects competence. Keeping struggles invisible while victories remain visible constructs protective reputation. Mystery forces environmental adjustment to you. Examine those you admire who project seamless capability. Do they narrate every internal doubt? Do they live stream every obstacle? Do they document the journey in real time? They operate in stealth mode. They construct privately. They reveal when prepared. This is not deception. This is strategic information control. Universal sharing invites universal opinion. Opinions cost nothing. Everyone possesses them. Most originate from fear, projection, or envy. Your ambitions cannot survive 1,000 skeptical voices. Your confidence cannot shoulder collective doubt. Protect both. Guard your internal world as your most valuable asset, because it is. This does not eliminate trusted confidants. This demands selectivity. This requires distinguishing between sharing for genuine connection versus sharing for validation hits. One builds intimacy, the other destroys momentum. Apply this filter before disclosing plans. Ask why you are sharing. Can they contribute meaningfully? Does their input hold value? Or are you seeking impression? Seeking artificial accountability? Seeking approval to legitimize the goal? If validation is the motive, withhold disclosure. Build first. Generate self-proof. Then, if sharing still appeals, share the result. Not everyone has earned access to your internal architecture. Not everyone deserves knowledge of your construction, your fears, or your capabilities. Let outcomes perform introductions. Let results communicate on your behalf. Let people question your methods instead of observing your struggles. Confidence expands in privacy. It manifests in public. Fifth principle, engineer yourself to be irreplaceable. Confront something conventional wisdom avoids. Pleasantness does not provide protection. Necessity does. You can be the most agreeable presence in any room. Endless smiling, constant agreement, zero conflict generation, and still face replacement, neglect, or disrespect. Why? Because agreeableness without capability equals mere compliance. When your competence solves problems others cannot solve, confidence transcends emotion. It becomes factual. This is the shift rarely discussed. Most believe confidence is mental conditioning and self-affirmation. Those help, but unshakable confidence emerges from knowing you deliver irreplaceable value. Not arrogance, evidence. When you enter spaces knowing you possess capabilities most lack, convincing people you belong becomes unnecessary. You simply belong. When you recognize your skills are scarce, likability becomes secondary to effectiveness. Demonstrated results eliminate doubt faster than any personality trait. If you consistently dissolve the hardest problems, arrive with solutions instead of excuses, produce work that defends itself, do you need to argue your value? Do you need to campaign for respect? People seek you. Opportunities locate you. Confidence becomes automatic because it rests on tangible foundation. Stop pursuing irreplaceability through charm. Pursue it through skill. Develop something you execute better than most. Reach such proficiency that your name triggers immediate association with that capability. Build reputation where your work sets the standard, not merely meets it. This does not require becoming cold or mechanical. This requires shifting dependency from being liked to being needed. The advantage. Competent individuals command respect, even without likability. Merely pleasant individuals retain likability until inconvenience arrives. Then, replacement occurs. Machiavelli's principle applies here. Fear and love rarely coexist. I am not advocating fear. I am advocating respect. Respect does not flow from agreeableness. It flows from capability. Ask yourself what you can execute that most cannot. What problem can you solve that makes you difficult to replace? What skill can you master so thoroughly that confidence becomes undeniable? Then construct that foundation. Competence is confidence's architecture. Everything else is aesthetic detail. Sixth principle. Eliminate the need for universal approval. Uncomfortable truth. Approval seeking generates predictability. Predictability generates weakness. Most people exhaust themselves attempting universal satisfaction. They modify opinions based on audience. They dilute boundaries to avoid upset. They compress personality to avoid standing out. They label this consideration. The accurate term is self-abandonment. Confidence emerges when you accept this. Not everyone is designed to like you. Not everyone will like you. This is not personal defect. This is mathematical certainty. You could embody maximum generosity, thoughtfulness, and talent, and someone will still manufacture reasons for dislike. Someone will still misread your intentions. Someone will still judge you as excessive or insufficient. Why invest energy pursuing those who will never select you? When you remove the approval requirement, transformation occurs. You become liberated. Liberated to establish boundaries without guilt. Liberated to express truth without fear. Liberated to make decisions aligned with your needs, not their comfort. Detachment amplifies your presence. People detect when you're not performing for their approval. They sense when you're not seeking their validation. Paradoxically, that is when respect peaks. Desperation repels. Confidence attracts. When you stop chasing opinions, you stop granting power. When you stop editing yourself for audiences, You operate from your center. That center is where authentic power resides. This does not justify rudeness or carelessness. This means refusing to let disapproval, fear control your existence. This means making choices aligned with your values, even when those choices generate unpopularity. Apply this test. Would you still act if nobody applauded? Would you still speak if it upset people? Would you still choose it if it made you someone else's villain? If affirmative, proceed. If negative, you are not choosing. You are performing. Performance is exhausting. Confidence is not. Those who matter will recognize your authenticity. Those who do not were never your people. Release them. Let them misunderstand. Let them discuss. You will be too occupied being yourself to notice. Seventh principle, eliminate emotional waste. Not everyone qualifies for your attention. Reread that, because this is where most lose power. They distribute energy universally. They entertain every conversation. They respond to every provocation. They maintain draining relationships because loneliness or appearing cold frightens them. What they fail to recognize: certain people drain focus. Certain conversations decelerate growth. Certain relationships enforce limitation. Every minute allocated there is a minute stolen from yourself. Eliminating emotional noise sharpens confidence. Audit your current life. How much mental energy flows to people who add zero value? How many hours replay conversations with people who never think of you? How much mental real estate is occupied by relationships that do not serve your evolution? That is emotional waste. It is destroying your momentum. Confident people are ruthless with energy. They recognize attention is their primary resource, so they protect it. They do not entertain drama. They do not engage with people who only appear when needing something. They do not attempt fixing relationships that were broken at inception. They sever and advance. This is not cruelty. This is self-preservation. Daily energy is finite. Daily focus is finite. Daily emotional bandwidth is finite. Each allocation to undeserving recipients is theft from yourself. Start being selfish with attention. Start asking, does this person add or subtract? Does this conversation propel or drag? Does this relationship improve or merely exhaust me? If the answer is unclear, the answer is no. Release people. Conclude conversations. Let relationships dissolve. Not every connection is designed for longevity. Not every person who enters deserves to remain. That is acceptable. Beyond that boundary exists space. Space for thought. Space for growth. Space to construct the life you actually want, instead of managing others' lives who do not even appreciate you. Confidence is not built in crowded environments. It is built in focused quiet. It is built when you stop scattering energy and start directing it toward what genuinely matters. Eliminate waste. Protect peace. Guard attention as if your future depends on it. Because it does. Eighth principle. Execute before readiness arrives. Secret nobody reveals. You will never feel prepared. Never. You can consume every resource. You can plan every variable. You can wait for the perfect moment, perfect confidence, perfect conditions. You will still feel fear when movement time arrives. Because fear does not evaporate first. Confidence follows action. Most people have this reversed. They believe confidence must precede action. They believe courage arrives first, then execution. That is not the mechanism. Action generates confidence. Movement generates momentum. Each time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that fear is not fatal. That proof constructs real confidence. Those who act amid uncertainty become powerful. Those who wait become spectators. Examine those winning in life. Did they wait for readiness? Did they have complete answers before starting? They moved imperfectly. They launched incompletely. They accepted positions they were unqualified for. They initiated businesses before possessing all answers. They solved problems during execution. That is the game. Clarity does not precede movement. Clarity emerges through movement. Each step generates information. Each action generates feedback. Each error teaches what thinking cannot teach. If you wait, if you remain in analysis mode, planning and preparing and overthinking, you learn nothing. You build nothing. You become nothing. Momentum eclipses belief. You do not need belief in capability. You need initiation. Belief arrives later. Confidence arrives after surviving failures and realizing you are still standing. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for readiness. Stop waiting for fear to disappear. It will not. But you can move regardless. You can act despite it. You can take one step, then another, then another. Before recognition hits, you will look back and realize you accomplished what you deemed impossible. That is confidence. Not the feeling, the evidence. Whatever you have been postponing, the conversation, the project, the risk, execute today. Not when ready, not when perfect. Today. Because the version waiting to feel confident will never materialize. The only version that matters is the one that moves. You are not here for universal likability. You are not here for universal understanding. You are not here to explain yourself into respect. You are here to move with control, to speak with intention, to exit without guilt. Real confidence is quiet. It does not announce itself. It is felt in your pauses, your boundaries, and your exits. Those who matter will recognize it. The rest were never meant to. Here is what happens when you live this way. You stop performing. You stop shrinking. You stop begging for space in rooms that should have welcomed you from the start. You become the person who does not need to vocalize their value, because everyone can feel it. You become the person who does not need to defend their choices, because their results speak louder. You become the person who does not need approval, because they already approved themselves. That is not arrogance. That is freedom. It starts the moment you decide that other people's opinions of you are none of your business. It starts when you choose your own respect over their comfort. It starts when you stop waiting and start walking. You have spent enough time hesitating. You have spent enough time shrinking. You have spent enough time letting less capable people take what should have been yours. That ends now. Not because you feel ready, but because you decided to be. Subscribe now if you want to continue learning how the game actually works.